second part of this series, and what topics we are going to cover today is requirements with respect to the personal, training, development, equipment, reagents and materials. So these three topics which we are going to cover it today. So we will begin first of all with the personal. So this is basically the most important resource which we are using in our laboratory. Basically, human resource or staff is the most important, because without which we will not be able to work or which we will not be able to practice a good laboratory practices in our laboratory. So most important part is, first of all, you have to designate a head of the laboratory or laboratory director in your institute or in your laboratory. This laboratory director will be responsible for overall operations and administrations of the laboratory, and the laboratory director remains the sole authority and responsibility for all the operations of your laboratory. Now, the strength of the staff, or how many staff should be available in the laboratory, it depends basically upon your level of facility and workload. Level of facility means how many complex tests you are performing, or whether you are performing the routine test, and how many tests or the number of tests, volumes we call, how many tests you are performing per day. So it depends upon the complexity of the test as well as the volumes of your test which you are performing in your laboratory. The organizational structure of the laboratory should support optimal path of workflow from collection of reporting of the results by allowing processes that yield efficient sample handling while minimizing the error. So the number of staff or your organizational structure should be designed in such a way that there should be an appropriate hierarchy, there should be an appropriate personnel for each and every activities. Maybe sometimes there are very small labs, so you may not require a dedicated personnel for each and every activities. So in that case, one personnel can perform more than one activities or can take more than one responsibilities. The resources should be managed in an efficient way so that to minimize the errors. The laboratory director has the responsibility for setting up an organization that can support the quality system model. So to have an efficient quality system model and to promote the good laboratory practices, how the organization structure should be there, what are the different positions should be there, what should be their hierarchies, what should be their qualifications. This is the responsibility of the laboratory director. So laboratory director should take the responsibility of organizing the quality system model in your laboratory. The director should also ensure that delegated duties are performed properly. So if the laboratory director has delegated some duties to some personnel, so maybe the activity of blood collection is carried out in your laboratory area. So there may be one laboratory person or supervisor who is doing those responsibilities. So delegated duties are there for this supervisor. So it is the responsibility of the laboratory director that the laboratory director should ensure that whatever duties have been allocated or delegated to these supervisors in laboratory area, they should perform it appropriately and in a good clinical laboratory practices manner. The laboratory director is responsible for developing policies, assigning authorities, responsibilities to the appropriate personnel. So what are the authorities for each personnel? What are their responsibilities? What are the policies are there? It is the responsibility of the laboratory director to organize all those authorities and responsibilities. Again, to optimize the resources. Optimizing the resources means, suppose, for example, you are getting the maximum number of patients or maximum number of tests to be done in the morning hours of the laboratory. It is the responsibility of the laboratory director to allocate maximum staff or maximum personnel in the morning shift, rather than equally appointing the personnel at different places or at in the different shifts. So whenever the workload is maximum, the manpower should be allocated appropriately. Then reviewing the organizational aspect of the system for optimal functioning of the quality processes and ensuring that personnel follow the quality policies established by the laboratory. So all these are the responsibilities of the laboratory director. It comes under the purview of laboratory director how the organizational structure should work so that the optimal functioning should be done appropriately, how the appropriate quality processes should be carried out, and what are the quality processes to be implemented and established in the laboratory. It comes under the purview of laboratory director. The next designation here which is important is the quality manager. So there should be a quality manager designated for independently monitoring and maintaining the quality management system. So there should be a designated personnel who is going to take the responsibility of your quality management system. This personnel should report to the management of the laboratory for the functions related to the quality management system. So these personnel have some authorities which comes as per the quality management system of the laboratory. So what are the requirement of the quality management system? What are the different aspects of quality management system, whether it is implemented appropriately, whether it is followed appropriately. If there are any additional requirement, it should be reported to the management. So this quality manager has these responsibilities that this quality manager should report to the senior management of the laboratory regarding the functioning of the quality management system. This quality manager also assists in developing policies, quality system procedures, and facilitating and implementing the quality management system. So it is the responsibility of the quality manager to implement all the quality policies, quality objectives, your SOPs, procedures, and to have a appropriate implementation of the quality management system. The quality manager shall communicate all aspects of quality management system processes directly to the laboratory director or head of the laboratory. So as I have already mentioned, it is the responsibility of the quality manager to communicate whatever are the relevant issues, whatever are the relevant aspects related to the quality management system directly to the laboratory director or to the head of the laboratory. Quality manager must undergo training on current standard. So whatever is the current standard, whatever is the current requirement, what are the current guidelines. So quality manager should be appropriately trained in all those guidelines, in all those requirements. He or she may be the technical person with additional responsibility. Now, many times we have very small laboratory, so it is not possible to appoint a separate quality manager. Then what can be done in such cases? The technical personnel who is already working in the laboratory, if they have sufficient experience or if they have sufficient capabilities, they can take the additional responsibility of a quality manager. So the technical staff, technicians or scientific officers who are already working in the laboratory, they can be given an additional responsibility related to the quality management. Now, in addition to there is something which is called as document control. So all the original documents should be retained in the secure area and only control copies are distributed to the users such as laboratory director, quality managers and other relevant personnel. So as yesterday also I have mentioned, whatever the policies are there, whatever the procedures are there, all those should be documented and they should be maintained under appropriate document control. Now, what is mean by document control? Basically, you need to identify each and every document. You need to number or you need to give a specific identification, a specific title to each document. You have to control them. You have to see whoever has prepared them, whenever they were revised, who has revised. If there are any changes have been made in those documents, who have made those changes, what was the date, what are the additional inclusions are made, what are some deletions have been made in those documents, when it was made, what is the version, what is the current edition of those documents, and how they are controlled or how they are distributed. So if maybe if there is a document, suppose a quality manual, so you have 10 copies of quality manual, so whomsoever you have distributed, so you should have a specific list. Maybe one copy you have given to laboratory director, one copy you have given to quality manager, maybe one copy is available in the reception of your laboratory, maybe one copy is available in your IT department, maybe one copy is available in your store of laboratory or to other relevant personnel as mentioned here. So you should have control of all these copies. So all these copies are under your document control. Now, many times, once we revise a document, the previous document or previous manuals become obsolete. Obsolete means outdated. So once you make some changes to your document, the previous document becomes obsolete. So what you have to do with this old document? So you have to archive them. They should be removed from all the places of use. Wherever, if you have given 10 copies you have issued, all those 10 copies you need to retract back. You have to archive them and you have to destroy them. Maybe one copy of the previous documents or old versions of the documents you can archive and you can retain it for the future reference purpose or as per your laboratory procedure. But it should not be available at the point of use or for the personals to use it, because you have made some changes. So you don't want them to use those old documents or whenever there are any outdated procedures. So all those documents should be archived and should be stored in a secure places. The GCLP has one additional requirement. If you can find it, it is mentioned that it is preferable to distribute documents in electronic form in read-only format. So here a recommendation has been given by the GCLP guidelines that whatever documents are available in your laboratory, distributing in the electronic format so that it is also environment friendly and user friendly. And you can make it in a read-only format so that no unauthorized changes can be made in those documents. So it is one of the requirements. So possibly, if it is possible, you should be able to distribute those documents in the electronic format. Now, review of documents. All the documents must be reviewed at periodically. So as per this GCLP guidelines, at least annually for the improvement. So periodically means whenever there is a change in the guidelines, whenever there are any changes in the parent document, then you should revise your documents in your laboratory also, or at least once in a year you should review those documents. So if you see it here, as per GCLP guidelines, they have given a specific frequency that at least once in a year you should revise or you should review all the documents. Laboratory personnel must be trained in the revised procedures before effective date. So once a new document is prepared, before putting it into the use, your staff must be aware of that. So you should train your staff before issuing those documents or before putting those documents into use. They should know how to use these documents. They should know what are the changes in the document. So you have to train them how to use those documents. Laboratory or technical personnel should understand the organizational structure of the laboratory. So your staff, your personnel in the laboratory should be aware about what is the organizational structure. What is the organizational structure means? Who is at the senior management level, who is at the middle management level, who is at the lower strata. If they have any issues or if they have any concerns, where they should contact, to whom they should inform. So what is the appropriate hierarchy, how the information should flow in the laboratory from one part to another. What is the structure, what are the different areas, what are the supportive areas of your laboratory. This all should be available or this all should be known to your laboratory staff. The laboratory staff should follow the quality policies and procedures in their daily routine work as described in the laboratory developed quality manual. So it is mandatory. Whoever are the staff working in your laboratory, they should follow the quality management system. They should follow the policies and procedures which you have already mentioned in your quality manual. So it is mandatory for them to follow all those requirements and to work as per those policies. Your work staff or laboratory personnel should be thoroughly oriented towards this current GCLP document as well as the applicable requirement of the current ISO 15189 standard. So it is mandatory for all your laboratory staff to get oriented, to get trained in this GCLP document. So you can see it is one of the requirement of this good clinical laboratory practices document that all the staff, all the personnel working in the laboratory, they should be oriented, they should be aware, and they should undergo the training as per this GCLP document. Now, what are the additional trainings you have to provide to your staff? Personnel should be appropriately trained to achieve quality outcomes in the laboratory and produce accurate, reliable, and timely test results. So, whatever requirements are there to produce a good quality service or to deliver a good quality laboratory result, to achieve that goal and to produce accurate, reliable, and timely test results, your staff must be trained appropriately as per their job designation and as per their job responsibility. Now, there are various types of training. What are these training? Broadly, these trainings can be divided into induction training as well as on-the-job training. So, at the beginning of their employment, so once a new staff is employed in your laboratory, so they should be undergoing a induction training. So, that is the orientation with respect to your organizations, with respect to their working and functions and their job responsibilities in the organizations and in the laboratory, as well as on the job training. So there should be a continuous training, not only like that at the beginning you have given training and now they have forgot everything. So it should be on the job training, and the combination of both this type of training should be used. So they should be given training in the initial period as well as on the job, and continuous training also should be given to personnel working in the laboratory. Now, training may be internal or external. Trainers may be internal or external. Now, how to give this training? Maybe you have a new laboratory. So, who is going to train them? So, you can hire somebody from outside, or you can take your staff to some external locations. You can train them. You can train your staff to some other laboratories, or you can hire somebody from outside to train them. Or if you have some experienced staff, that staff itself can train the other people. So it is not mandatory that you should attend only external training, or only a trainer should be from the inside. So it is very flexible. You can have internal training as well as external training. The trainers can be from in-house from your organization, or the trainers can be from outside of the organization. The goal of the laboratory training program for technical personnel is to ensure that the employees possesses the necessary knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform assigned work. So your main goal of the training is not to just fill the documents and not to just complete the training record. The training is given so that your employer or employees should possess the necessary knowledge. What are the skills? What are the knowledge are required to perform a specific activity in the laboratory? They should have those knowledge. They should have necessary skills. They should be able to work independently. That is why we are conducting the training program. It is not like that for the accreditation purpose or for certification purpose, you are just completing some document. The main goal here is to train your staff so that they will work appropriately as per their skills and as per their abilities. The training also should be given to follow the laboratory policies, procedures, and guidelines. So, whatever the policies and procedures have laid by your laboratory, what are guidelines are available, such as good clinical laboratory practices. There are biomedical waste guidelines. There are certain other guidelines related to the NACO guidelines. So, your laboratory staff should be trained in those guidelines so that they will follow those guidelines, and ultimately it will help to have a proper services given by your laboratory. They should be able to perform accurate examination. So there should be a step-by-step procedures to be completed for each examination. So to complete those examinations, they should be trained. They should have that knowledge. So they should be able to perform the test examinations as per the standard operating procedure. So they should know how to perform these examinations. They should also acquire a working environment which is stress-free and conducive for work is a process to provide knowledge and develop skill in order to meet the requirement. So not only the work. So maybe we have seen some places the employers start forcing their employees to work 8 hours, 10 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours. There are long night duties. So it is not just the completion of the work, but their working environment should be stress-free, and it should be also helpful to gain more knowledge for them. Now, two types of training: induction training, and the on-job training. So first of all, we will see what is induction training, laboratory facilities, culture, and values. So this is just an introduction. The person will be oriented. What is the organizations? What is the structure of the organizations? What are the different management of the organizations are there? What are the different departments? What are the different areas? What is the aim of the organizations? What are the vision, mission, policies of the organization? Then how is the laboratory facilities? So maybe sometimes we know if there are very big organizations, the staff working in one corner of the institute doesn't know what is going in the another corner. So they should know what are the different facilities are there, what is the structure of the laboratories there, what are the culture in your laboratory, what are the values they should follow while working in the laboratory. So all these things should be oriented during the induction training. Apart from that, training is given at the time of joining. So not only the orientation, but the initial training also should be given as per their responsibilities which they have to follow in their working area. It provides the newly joined person with better understanding of the role he or she is going to play in helping the organizations and laboratory achieves its goals. So we have to provide a appropriate training to all the newly joined training of what are roles they are going to play in the laboratory organizations and what will be their part, how they can contribute to the working of the laboratory, how they can help the organization to achieve the goals which are mandated by the laboratory management. Now, this training should cover all the policies, processes, procedures, and requirements. So, the training should be comprehensive and it should cover all the necessary areas. Job introduction topics may include personal introduction, laboratory terminologies, attendance, dress requirement, ergonomics, facilities, communication, computer systems, security and privacy, and the quality management system. So the training should include all the necessary aspects. Like yesterday, we have started the training program with some of the definitions. They should have an appropriate introduction to with their colleagues, with the other persons who are working in the laboratory, how to maintain the attendance, what are the dress codes are there, what is the facility communications are there, if they want to communicate to somebody, how they can communicate, if there is any software or LIS systems, computer systems are used, how to operate those systems, how to maintain the security and privacy. All these components should be included as a part of training program. Now, after induction training, there is a on-the-job training. So basically, it is a continuous training. All laboratory personnel involved in specimen collection, processing, examination, and reporting should take GCLP training. So now this is given in the document itself. This is not from me that I have put in this presentation. These same lines have your GCLP document. So what it mentions, all the personnel which are involved in the specimen collection, processing, examination, and reporting should be trained in this good clinical laboratory practices. It is mandatory to participate in this training program. The frequency of the training must be sufficient to ensure that employees remain familiar with the GCLP requirements applicable to them. Now, frequency of training is, it is not like that today I have taken one class, or maybe this week I am taking this full class of 8 hours, and after 6 months, after 1 year, I have forgot everything. No, it should be, the frequency of the training may be sufficient to ensure that your staff, your employees remain familiar. They should be aware every time. They should know what are the GCLP requirements are there. They should be, it is not like that I have done the training, I have got the certificate, I have forgot everything. They should be aware and they should be familiarized with all the requirement of this GCLP. The laboratory must employ an adequate number of qualified personnel to perform all the functions associated with the volumes and complexity of the test and task and testing performed. So this I have mentioned in the initial session itself, that sufficient number of staff means now somebody may ask how many staff are conducting and what is the complexity of the test. That also you have to consider. Sometimes there are very simple tests which are carried out by automated analyzers. Sometimes there are many manual steps are involved, many manual tests are carried out. Sometimes there are very complex tests where the examination may require more than one person. So it depends upon the type of test and volume of the test you are performing in your laboratory. Managerial and technical personnel engaged in the conduct of the laboratory testing related to the clinical research must have the education, training, and experience commensurate with the assigned function. So whatever responsibilities have been given to them, whatever functions have been assigned to them, their level of education should be as per that. They should be trained and they should be experienced as per the requirement or whatever is required for their necessary job responsibilities or appropriate laboratory functions which they are supposed to perform in the laboratory. Once the training is done, the next part is evaluation. So it is not like that I have conducted this training and my part is over. I have to evaluate. That is why we are conducting pre-test evaluation and post-test evaluation also. In this training program also, we are conducting a pre-test evaluation and post-test evaluation also. Why? To understand how far you have understood the topic, what are the requirements, if there are any gaps, or do we require to conduct some additional trainings. For that purpose, there should be appropriate evaluation of all the training program. The laboratory should have a policy that refers to the program and processes used for assessing effectiveness of the training. So you should conduct appropriate evaluations. What is the understanding of all the staff with respect to the GCLP guidelines and other training programs, you should conduct appropriate evaluations. Evaluation can be done post-training after some duration to see the effective implementation and understanding. Now, once I have conducted this training program, I am taking post-evaluation or post-test evaluation, but it should not stop at that point. I should conduct the periodic evaluations, maybe after some duration, after 2 months or after 3 months, after 6 months. See, it is very common that if you do not revise or if you do not undergo a repeated evaluation, we may forget some part. So, for that purpose, to see the effectiveness of implementation and understanding, a periodic evaluation is required. Evaluation must be conducted and recorded for all the tasks upon completion of an employee's initial training. So as per the initial training, whatever training you have conducted, evaluation must be conducted for all the tasks. Whatever training you have given, you should conduct the evaluation of all those training. For new methods or instruments prior to starting patient testing and prior to reporting of the patient results. Now, if I have a new equipment in my laboratory, or if I have a new test method or new test I have introduced in my laboratory. So before I start actually releasing the patient samples and actually releasing the patient results, I should train my staff. I should conduct their evaluations, whether they are able to perform this test appropriately. So a training should be conducted and evaluation must be conducted before starting any new test or any new equipment use. If you are making any changes to processes and procedures, so if you are changing your SOPs, if you are changing your some procedures, then again before those processes and procedures to be used for the patient testing purpose, you should train and perform the evaluation of your staff. When personal responsibilities have changed, now one staff, for example, was working in phlebotomy area. Now, by seeing his conduct or seeing his behavior, by seeing his commitment, I have promoted him and I have shifted him to some other areas. Or maybe the person was working as a routine phlebotomist and I have posted or I have promoted him as a senior phlebotomist or maybe a supervisor. Now, what happens? The responsibilities have changed. So, before changing the responsibilities, before putting that personals in the actual new responsibilities, you should conduct the evaluation before changing the job locations or before changing the responsibilities, whether that personals will be appropriately or satisfactorily will be able to perform or not those responsibilities. Once the next part is the competence assessment. So the Warshik laboratory should conduct periodic competence assessment for all the personals, preferably once in a year. Again, this frequency has been given in the document itself. So once in a year, at least you should perform the competency assessment. The competency assessment should be done to ensure that the personals maintain their competency to perform assigned job promptly, accurately, and without error. So now yesterday we have seen what is the competency. It is the skill to perform the task and the relevant understanding or relevant knowledge with respect to application of the knowledge with respect to the task they are performing. So competency assessment should be performed to ensure that the personals maintain their competency to perform assigned jobs promptly, accurately, and without any errors. Competency assessment must compare employee's performance against a documented standard. So how we are going to perform the competency assessment? So you should have certain predefined specific criteria. You should have defined criteria, like for a person working in a histopathology, what will be the criteria? Whether this person is able to stain the slides appropriately, whether the person is able to cut the tissue appropriately, whether the person is able to perform the other activities like typing of the reports appropriately. So there should be a specific predefined criteria, and as per those predefined criteria and documented standard, the competency examination should be performed. Competency records needs to identify that are reviewed or observed, when it was reviewed or observed, who did the review or observation, and what was the outcome. Now, how to record this competency assessment? So, like I have performed the competency assessment, but then unless and until I record those findings, it is of no use, because there are no evidences whether I have performed this competency assessment. So, whenever we are performing the competency assessment, we should know what was reviewed, what are the activity I have observed, or what are the assessment I have performed. So you should mention specific which activity has been observed or which activity has been reviewed. Then when it was reviewed or when it was observed, like date, time, you should mention in the competency records. And also you should record that who did the review or observation, whether who was the supervisory person, who was the manager who is performing the competency assessment. So, and finally, what was the outcome, whether the competency assessment has been performed satisfactorily or if there are any gaps. All those things must be recorded in your competency assessment. So you should maintain the records, which will include what are the activities are reviewed, when it was reviewed, who has reviewed, and what was the outcome. All these components must be included in your competency record. Then individuals responsible for competency assessment should have education and experience to evaluate the complexity of the testing being assessed. Now, who should perform the competency assessment? There is always a question that who should perform the competency assessment. So, whoever is performing the competency assessment, that person must have appropriate education and experience. Like I am suppose I am a microbiologist, and if I am going or performing the competency assessment of some person who is working in the histopathology area, and I myself is not aware of those activities, then I cannot perform those competency assessment. I do not have relevant qualification. I do not have relevant experience. So if I am performing a competency assessment, I should have relevant education, I should have relevant qualification and experience, so that I will review those activities appropriately. Record created for retraining reassessment needs to include the outcome. There should be a specific outcome should be mentioned. Specific outcome means whether the personnel where competency evaluation is performed or competency assessment is performed, whether the person is competent or not. So there should be a specific outcome should be mentioned, and it must be signed by the individual and management and retained in the individual's personal file. So it must be signed by the individuals. Who should sign it? The personnel who has conducted the competency assessment and the personnel who has undergone the assessment. Both signs should be there, and somebody from the management should sign it, and it should be retained in the personal file of that staff. Competency assessment, how you should perform. So there are various methodologies to perform the competency assessment. It includes direct observation of the routine patient test performance. So I can directly observe how a staff is working, how they are collecting the samples, how they are processing the samples, how they are resulting the report, how they are handling the specimens, how they are discarding the waste, how they are using the personal protective equipment, that I can directly observe. I can also observe how they are recording and reporting the test results. So I have to record. Once the results are generated, I have to record them and I have to report them. So I can observe those activities also. I can also observe how the staff is performing the equipment maintenance, how they are performing the function checks. So before performing any test, you should check whether the equipment is functioning or not properly. So you can directly observe how they are performing the function check, how they are checking the performance of the equipment. You can also assess the test performance through testing of the previously analyzed samples. So if there is any samples, you can give some staff. If some newly appointed staff is there, you can ask to retest the same sample which is already tested. So that also can be done, which is called as the retesting of the samples, or you can just blind the samples, or you can just give a sample which is used for the EQA or proficiency testing. That same sample can be given for retesting purpose. You can also review the worksheet, quality control records, and maintenance records. So whatever activities we are performing, they have to record those evidences. So how they are recording those evidences, how they are completing the registers, how they are filling the forms, how they are documenting the activities related to the quality control, related to the maintenance, related to the temperature recording. Their records also we can review as a part of competency assessment. Apart from that, you can also assess their problem solving skills. If there are any problem situations or if there are any troubles in your laboratory, you should see, you can directly observe how they are reacting to those problems, how they are solving those issues in the laboratory. Now, this is the additional thing here. As per the GCLP guidelines, personnel should be tested for visual color discrimination. Now, in hematology or histopathology, when you are observing any slide under microscope, and even in microbiology, you are doing in histopathology also, there are HN staining, there are other various stains. So For that purpose, the person who is doing this screening or who is doing this microscopy, they should check for their visual color discrimination, because it is a very common disorder. Color blindness is a very common disorder. So in that case, and it generally goes unnoticed. So you should take a appropriate evaluation with respect to the visual color, whether they are able to differentiate between various colors. Personnel performing testing or other tasks that requires color discrimination should be evaluated for difficulty with visual color discrimination. So they should be able to discriminate with different color. They should be able to identify different colors. So the evaluation should be performed independently. Evaluation to be limited to those colors items pertinent to the job is sufficient. So you need not have to perform the evaluation of all the colors. You should see which color we require generally. Hematoxylin, eosin, gram staining. So what colors are required for your working in the laboratory? The evaluation of those colors, the testing should be done for those colors for the color blindness. So which is relevant, those only colors should be actually tested. Providing continual education and professionals is a requirement, one of the GCLP requirements. Such programs, as per needs of all personnel, must be documented and evidence of ongoing adherence must be readily available. So, whatever training programs you have prepared, you should see the records of those training programs are appropriately available, and your laboratory is adhering to those training programs. So, if some training program we have scheduled it for today, 7 o'clock, so you should see whether it is appropriately conducted at 7 o'clock, or if there are any delays. You are targeted for 10 persons, all 10 persons are attending those training programs or not, it should be appropriately recorded. Action plans for improvement in the training program should be determined. So there should be always be a feedback mechanism. Whenever you are conducting a training program, you should take the feedback of all the trainees or all the employees, all the staff. What are the improvement required? What are the complaints are there? What are the findings are there? What additional changes they require in the training program? Those feedback should be collected and it should be implemented in the future training program. A laboratory should maintain a personal file of all the staff. So what this personal file should include? Personal details like your name, address, age, your spouse name or immediate we call it as a nominee. All those details should be recorded. Educational copies with degrees, diploma, training certificates, award, recognition if you have received anything, your experience certificate, registration with state authority if applicable. So, any medical council, paramedical council registration, nursing council registration is required. If it is applicable, it should be copies of those registrations should be retained. Copies of appointment letters should be available in your personal file. Medical fitness certificate. So there should be a fitness. So if you are working in a laboratory, you should be fit to work in that environment. So your fitness certificate from the registered medical practitioner should be available. Performance appraisals, records of periodic evaluations, if any, those should be kept in your personal files. Vaccination records, records of accident, incident should be kept in the file. Training records should include the following information. So whatever training you have conducted, you should maintain the training record, like title of the training event. So what is now here? What is the title of the training event? GCLP guideline as per ICMR 2021 document. So title of the training event, identity of the trainer. So who has given the training or who has imparted the training, identity should be recorded. What are the items covered during the training? So what are the different sessions or what are the different topics which were covered in the training? What was the date of those training? Name of the persons being trained. So how many people and what are their names who have undergone this training? And attestation including the trainee's signature should be recorded, indicating the commitment to comply with the procedures and train as trained. So you should take their signatures. Whoever have been trained, you should take their signatures that now they will follow the training program or training guidelines which have been given to them. So they will follow all the procedures. They should be taken in their commitment to comply with those training protocols. Although there are no specific retraining requirement for personnel returning after an extended absence, the laboratory should determine training or retraining needs individually. Now we know there are many times many female staff goes on maternity leave for 6 months or maybe 9 months. So when those staff are returning to work, so it may or may not be needed to have a retraining program, but you should evaluate whether the personnel is able to perform their duties. So as per the requirement, the retraining can be conducted whenever a person is returning from long leave or long absence. Now coming to the next part of this session is the equipment. Each laboratory should prepare a list of equipment. So whatever different equipments are available in your laboratory, all the equipment, not like big analyzers and not like all the automated analyzers, whatever is available in your laboratory. So it is one of the policy in our all the organizations. If whatever small equipments you have, pipettes, you have stirrers, you have whatever centrifuges you have, all these things should be included as a part of your list of equipment. Now, what is included in the equipment? Equipment includes all the hardware and software of the equipment. It is not only the hardware or the machinery part. It is also includes the software part of the equipment, measuring system and laboratory information system. All these will be considered or will be included in the list of equipment. Laboratory equipment should be adequate capacity to meet the workload requirement. So what type of equipment should you purchase? Many times we get question, what equipment I should purchase in my laboratory. So it depends how many tests you are getting in your laboratory, what is your volume, what are your workload. Depending upon that, you should have a adequate capacity equipment. Equipment should be suitably located in the laboratory to allow accessibility, sequential utilization, thus minimizing the need for frequent movement of the manpower, specimens or reagents. So equipment should be suitably located so that they should be accessible. It is not like the equipment is dumped or cramped in a congested place and it is difficult to enter that area and not more than one person can go and work at a time. So it should be appropriately located so that whoever is working on the equipment, they should have that accessibility and they need not have to carry the samples from here to there. Like one equipment I have maintained in this corner, the other equipment is that corner. So I am taking the specimen from this corner to that corner. Again, I am missing some test. Again, I am going from this corner to that corner. So this should be avoided. So maybe you should have appropriate structure and layout of your laboratory so that you should locate the equipment in your laboratory appropriately so that there is no frequent movement of the manpower as well as the specimens and reagents. So there should be minimal movement should be allowed. Now, with respect to the equipment should be selected to meet the requirements of the laboratories in terms of design and capacity. So whenever you are selecting the equipment, you should also see what is the design, what is the capacity of the laboratory, what is the layout of the laboratory. Not only that I have a lot of money, so I will select a very big equipment. You should see what is your requirement. You should see what is the space available. That should be seen while selecting an equipment. So whenever an equipment is selected, you should conduct the appropriate installation qualification, operational qualification, and performance qualification. That is called as IQ, OQ, and PQ. So IQ, OQ, PQ or equipment qualification should acceptance testing should be performed for all the equipment before putting them into the use. All equipment should be in a good working condition at all the times. So you have to maintain time of the equipment. There should be periodic inspection, cleaning, and maintenance of the equipment should be done. Maintenance should be done as recommended by the manufacturer. So don't change it, don't overuse, or don't use any outdated or aged equipment. Once it is not working properly, make a proper maintenance of those equipment. So equipment logbook should be maintained for all the equipment. Now it has been given in this document as Annexure 1 and Annexure 2. So these are the formats which is given. So this format you can just take a screenshot or I can send you later also like how the equipment maintenance should be done. So you should have name and model of the equipment, emergency telephone number, date of installation of the equipment, warranty period, date of validation, date of company calibration, and next due date of the calibration. So all the details should be included as per this equipment logbook in the scheduled maintenance program. Then there is the emergency or breakdown maintenance program. So here also you should maintain all the details as per the requirement. So this is given in the document itself. So that what if you need, I can send it separately or you can just take a screenshot of this Annexure 2 also. All equipment should undergo calibrations and verifications. Conducting or performing the calibration process involves applying a standard value to the laboratory instrument and observing how it behaves. So once the equipment is calibrated, you should perform the appropriate standardization. You should run the standards and controls, and you should see how the equipment reacts with this standard or calibration process. Calibration frequency also again should be defined as per the manufacturer requirement or as per the norms of your regulatory bodies or accreditation bodies. So again, you should not change as far as possible. This calibration and maintenance frequency should not be changed by the laboratory. Whatever is recommended by the manufacturer. So if you want to maintain the equipment in good working condition, you should follow whatever is mentioned by the manufacturer. In case of examination systems such as automated analyzer, calibration should be try to venture yourself to calibrate the equipment by yourself. Take the service of the manufacturer or the company engineer because they are well aware of the equipment, so they will do it in a most appropriate manner. Automated examination systems such as cell counters, clinical biochemistry, and auto analyzers, automated coagulatometers, ELISA readers should be calibrated at a regular interval as per SOPs. As I have already mentioned, you should mention it in your as per the manufacturer's requirement. Raw data generated during the calibration should be maintained as a record. So whatever raw data is generated, whatever the calibration curves are generated, whatever the values of voltmeter or the amperometer or whatever other reading of your cuvettes are there, syringes are there, all those data should be recorded and should be kept as a raw data for your calibration. Equipment should be calibrated in a manner that meteorological traceability should be to SI units through a reference material or reference procedure. So there should be appropriate traceability of your calibration procedure. You should not just follow any unstandardized procedure, make a standardized protocol, use standard procedure for calibration of the equipment, and so you should always use a standard reference method and standard reference material for calibration of your equipments. So this traceability can be obtained from National Physical Laboratory, NPL in India for legal and meteorologically, Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Mumbai for radiological measurement, or a calibration laboratory accredited by any MRA partner. So you should always get calibrated your equipment from the accredited laboratories, not like if you see there are various laboratories which carry out the calibration of your pipettes and centrifuges and your temperature monitors, your thermometers. So whenever you are calibrating your equipment, whatever small it is, you should see that it is an accredited laboratory. And which accredited laboratory, which is the MRA partner for APAC. APAC is the Asia Pacific Accreditation, which is the accredited laboratory. Various types of equipment may be calibrated in-house by using reference material or comparative techniques. Now, many times we have seen most of the time centrifuges are calibrated in-house because it is not possible to send the centrifuges outside. So whatever the calibration methods you are using or materials you are using, it should have appropriate reference materials and a reference techniques or comparative techniques should be available. So you should have appropriate tachometer which is calibrated when you are calibrating a centrifuge in your laboratory. In such cases, reference material should demonstrate traceability to the SI unit or appropriate measurement standard. So there should be appropriate traceability if you are performing any in-house calibration. Such an activity should be done only if the laboratory has the competence. Now you should calibrate it only if you know the actual protocols and you are competent to perform the calibration. Then only you should take it and you should perform the calibration of your equipment. Otherwise, it is absolutely no to perform any equipment calibration in house of your laboratory. Equipment performance should be verified by running IQC material having similar matrix to the sample. So you should know you should always use appropriate IQC material which is similar to the patient sample so that it will react in an appropriate manner to the equipment. You should evaluate the performance of your equipment as per using the IQC materials. Outlier parameters, root cause analysis, and corrective action should be recorded and maintained. Now we have a separate session for IQC analysis and corrective action, so we'll take it in more details there. Preventive maintenance of the program should be created and implemented. This can be done by preparing a checklist, format, calendar for equipment maintenance as applicable. So you should prepare appropriate format and appropriate table for equipment calibrations and equipment maintenance, and you should adhere to those programs. Preventive maintenance program for equipment should be in place. This involves periodic performance check as recommended by manufacturer. So when you are performing the maintenance of your equipment, there should be appropriate program and you should follow the manufacturer's guidelines. Like if you are performing daily maintenance, weekly maintenance, monthly maintenance, it should be as per the requirement provided by the recommendations provided by the manufacturer. You should Maintain a register where the serial numbers of the equipment, unique identification numbers, and locations where the equipment is located. It should all be recorded in your equipment register. There shall be a provision of harmonization of the equipment. So if you are using the 2 or 3 analyzers for same test, like you have analyzers for glucose estimation, you have more than 1 or 2 analyzers or more than 2 analyzers in your laboratory, then you should perform appropriate harmonization. How frequently it should be performed? Minimum of 6 months. Once in a 6 month, the comparison of the samples between 2 analyzers must be performed. All the equipments to be properly checked by for the qualified and trained personnel to ensure the safety of the user. So you should also have a appropriate function checks and safety checks of the equipment, preferably again once in a 6 month by qualified and trained personnel. Records of all breakdowns to be maintained. So you should have appropriate equipment breakdown. Register also should be maintained by the laboratory. Maintenance contracts include warranty cards, telephone number of the personnel to be contacted in case of equipment malfunction should be kept safely but within the reach of the user. User manuals should be readily available. So operator manuals, how to use the equipment, how to maintain the equipment, how to perform the maintenance, all those instructions should be available for reference. The laboratory personnel should be aware of troubleshooting and corrective measures. If there is a basic minor problems in the equipment, the laboratory user should be aware how to troubleshoot and how to correct those. Disposal of the equipment. So if the equipment is not working appropriately, it should be disposed of by appropriate condemnation procedure should be there. So this will take old and potentially unsafe equipment out of the service. So if you have appropriate condemnation protocols in place, it will help you to take out the equipment which are unsafe, which are harmful, or which are potentially hazardous to use in your environment. You can take it out of the environment. So the procedure of condemnation and disposal of the obsolete equipment should be laid down by the laboratory. So you should have appropriate SOPs, how you are going to condemn equipment, what will be your criteria, what will be your condemnation committee will be there, what will the decisions will be taken by those committee, who are the authorities and personnel responsible for the condemnation of the equipment. Criteria for condemnation, disposal of the equipment that are obsolete, unserviceable, unfit, and hazardous equipment disposal should be as per the SOPs and should be relevant to the policies and local and national guidelines. So you should specify the criteria for condemnation. Coming to the last part of this today's program is the reagents, kits, and materials. So use and maintenance and storage of the reagents, kits, and materials from a major part of the basic infrastructure. So you should have appropriate maintenance, storage of the reagents, kits. You should have appropriate facilities. You should have appropriate temperature conditions. You should have appropriate refrigerators, walk-in refrigerators to store those reagents. Some reagents and chemicals should be protected from direct sunlight. So those protocols and those facilities should be available in your laboratory. All the reagents, kits, and materials of standard quality supplied from reputed suppliers must be fit for the purpose of use. So IVD are certified materials, certified reagents, which are appropriately available, HPLC grade water, analytical grade water, all the authorized personnel and authorized suppliers. Quality of newly purchased reagents should be verified against the suitable control. So basically, a lot verification or kit verification should be carried out whenever you are purchasing any new reagent or new chemical. It should be, the quality should be verified against your standard controls or against your standard reference material or any samples which is written from the previous testing procedure. So there should be appropriate kit verification and lot verification for each of the reagents should be performed. There should be appropriate recipes for that, and records should be maintained for all the verifications of the reagents and chemicals. Reagents, description of the reagent should be available. That is, what type of reagent is available, what is the materials, what is the terms of name, batch number, lot number, catalog number, date of manufacturers, name of the supplier should be available in your inventory. So when we keep the record of the reagent, many times I have seen just we write the name of the reagent and we just mention when it was received. But apart from that, what is the purpose of that reagent? What is the material? What is the terms of that name? What is the batch number of that reagent? Lot number, catalog number also should be mentioned, and when it was manufactured and what is the expiry date of those reagents. It should be all be included in your inventory log or register. Relevant Details relevant to the usage like sensitivity, specificity, measuring range, shelf life, labels, safety data sheets, storage and disposal should be mentioned in the SOP. Apart from that, you should have SOP where you are going to mention all the performance characteristics which include sensitivity, specificity, measuring range, shelf life of the reagents and chemicals, what are their labels, what is meant by labels, we have seen in the definition, data safety data sheet, how to handle the reagent, how to dispose of the reagent, how to store them, how to dispose of them. This all information should be available in a standard operating procedure. Labeling of the reagents and bottle containers and chemicals should include following information should be clearly mentioned. So what information should be available in all the reagent labels? Name of the reagent, date of receiving or date of opening of the reagent, strength or concentration. So if you are using any chemicals, so they will have certain concentrations, certain percentage, molarity, normality, all this should be included. Their concentration should be included. Storage conditions, how you are going to store them under refrigerator, under room temperature, under frozen conditions, date of expiry of those reagents and materials. Open by, who has opened it, they should sign it or they should approve, at least put their some identity. Next is the storage of reagents and chemicals. All reagents, chemicals, stains, media, kits, microbials should be stored as recommended by the manufacturer. So again, there is no compromise. Whatever is mentioned by the manufacturer, it should be stored as per the manufacturer recommendation. So you can see the kit insert or the batch kit insert, or you will have that labels in those bottles. So you should see whatever the storage conditions are there. You should store them as per those requirements. Then preparation of the working solution. Many a times some reagents or some chemicals we prepare in our laboratory. So working solution should be prepared within the laboratory as per the SOP. So if you are preparing or if you are reconstituting some reagents or some stains in your laboratory, it should be done as per the SOPs and it should again be labeled. Now what those labels for preparing this working solution include name of the solution, what is the name of the solution, when it was prepared or reconstituted, what it contained, content of the solution, strength or concentration, again what is the strength, normality, molarity or any percentage is there, it should be mentioned on the label. Storage condition, how and when it should be stored, how far it should be stored. Expiry date, that is the when the solution should be discarded. So expiry date also should be mentioned. Then disposal of unusable and expired reagent should be as per the national and international guidelines. So when you open the reagent, there is a pattern, so it mentions how to dispose of that reagent and chemical. So it should be discarded as per the those requirements. If there are certain guidelines as per the national and international guidelines, if there are certain radioactive materials, how it should be disposed of. If there are certain carcinogenic materials, how it should be disposed of. So whatever requirements are there, such as formalin is there, xylene is there in your histopathology laboratory, how it should be disposed of. All the required guidelines should be followed as per the national and international regulations. All the medical disposables and consumables should be used as per the specifications by the manufacturer, especially products meant for the single use, should not be reused. So needles, syringes should not be reused. You have to follow those protocols. It is very strict. Water quality should be checked for its grade and presence of interference elements. Distilled deionized water should be used for testing. So double distilled water or deionized water should be used in your laboratory as and when required. All radioactive materials should be used, stored and disposed of as per the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, that is AERB guidelines which are given. So whenever if you are using any radioactive materials, it should be discarded as per those requirements. So with this, we are concluding this today's session.